Hello. Sorry, I haven't said anything. Tonight is Real Talk with Renee and Jen. So we're just waiting for Jen to hop on and we'll get her invited in. So if you're new here, tell us who you are, where you're from. My name is Renee. Welcome. Tonight we're doing Real Talk with Renee and Jen. So we're just waiting for Jen to hop on so I can invite her in. We're going to be talking about when the divine intervenes on your behalf. So if you want to talk about that, stick around with us. We're just waiting for Jen to get on so I can invite her in. And then we're going to have a nice talk about the divine when it intervenes. So if you're just hopping on, tell me who you are, where you're from while I'm waiting to see if Jen's going to get on here. Hey, Steve, are you still there? Say hi, Steve. There she is. Okay, we're gonna invite her in. Maybe I put lotion on and I won't do it. Oh crap! Hopefully she can. Maybe she can. Oh, there we go. It wouldn't let me hit it. It kept hitting it and it wouldn't bite.
I don't know why I don't know why the immediate reaction is that it doesn't put me on my camera right away when I am.
Well, and I just put lotion on my hands, so when I went to push it, I had lotion on my finger, so it wouldn't. And I'm like, what in the world?
I want my other readers. Hold on.
All right. So if you're just hopping on with us, it's Real Talk with Renee and Jen. Tonight we're going to talk about when the divine intervenes. So let's just wait a second here, Jen, and see if anybody's going to hop on with us.
Yeah,
I worked out this morning and my shoulders are so tight. I thought I worked my legs more than my shoulders, but apparently not.
you worked out. I went for a walk. I almost cut it short because the wind was biting and it was windy. I was like, what the? But I did it. I went through it because when I got around the corner, it wasn't right at my face, and then it was behind me, and then it was a little on the side. But I got some hot chocolate today.
I know. I was like, I was gonna do hot chocolate. Then I looked at the time and it was like 6:58, and I'm like, I don't have time. So I'm like, well, I'll just drink my water and then I'll do hot chocolate another night. So. All right. Well, if you're just hopping on with us tonight, tonight is Real Talk with Renee and Jen. We've started doing this on Sunday nights, but since last night was Easter, we didn't want to hop on, and we knew everybody would be busy with their family time. So tonight is Real Talk with Renee and Jen, and we're gonna, like I said, we're going to talk about when the divine intervenes on our behalf. So sometimes we're afraid to take that step, right? So the divine takes that step for us. Has the divine ever intervened for you? I know it has on my part a lot. Jen, how about you?
Yeah, I've had many. I mean, I didn't realize it at the time, especially before the last couple, 2.5, 3 years. I just thought it was happening to me.
Okay.
So, you
Real
want me to
quick,
give
Jen, while you're
examples?
paused. Sorry, real quick, I'm just gonna, if you're just hopping on with us, tell us who you are, where you're from. I'm one away from 155.4 thousand. Oh, well, good luck, Meg. I hope you get further. If you're just hopping on with us, tell us who you are, where you're from. Tonight we're talking about the divine intervening on your part or on you, helping you out sometimes maybe when you're too afraid to step out of your comfort zone. Just know we're not shy here. My name is Renee. Jen is on with us tonight. So don't be shy. Comment if you have something to say. We would love to hear it. And on that note, I'm going to turn it back over to Jen, and she's going to tell us sometimes when the divine has intervened on her part.
Yeah, and the first ones I was talking about where I didn't realize that it was happening for me. Until later, I looked back on it the first one that I can think of that was not too, I mean, it was like, I think it was 2019, I think. And I was working as a counselor. I got half a heart, sorry. I was working as a counselor and just not doing what I thought I would be doing as a counselor. It didn't feel like it. And I ended up getting fired because they didn't prepare me properly. It was my first counseling job, and I had to do something where I was, on call, and I didn't do it directly the way I was supposed to because I wasn't really trained on it. Nobody had said these are the specific. So
Right.
anyway, I didn't do it. I guess they thought that was not okay, so they ended up, and I thought this is what I wanted to do, was be a counselor, but then I didn't feel like I was doing it, and it was just felt like a chore to me. So even though it was hard, and I didn't even tell my dad, because I was actually, the day I got let go, I was on a trip to go see my mom, who was dealing with, issues with her liver over living with her sister, waiting on a transplant. And I went on a trip with my dad to there and never told him until we got there. And I just happened to mention it. And it was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know. But what else was I going to do? Like, I wasn't going to say, hey, we're
Right.
going on, hey, let's do this. But, anyway, point being that it was hard, and I didn't know what I was going to do, but I just dealt with it. And, didn't think
Right.
it was happening, anyway. So then the second time that it happened was when I was working for another company, and it was not a very supportive situation. They said they worked as a team. I'm not going to say the name of the company, but they say they work as a team. They did not work as a team. And so I ended up getting fired from there. But the thing was, I was going to work every day going, I do not want to go. I do not want to go. I wasn't supported. The people we were dealing with were very inappropriate, not behaving well. It was a behavior tech type situation where you were helping adults.
So
And
let
it
me
was,
ask you, can I interrupt you for a second? So in that situation where you didn't want to go, you didn't want to go, but at the same time you probably needed the job, right? And so you
I
were
needed the
like
money.
you were probably a little afraid of, I'm miserable here, but kind
Yes,
of
well,
afraid to
exactly.
maybe just do something else sometimes, right? We kind of get in that
Exactly.
stuck.
But the universe had other plans, and it got me fired. And I tell you what, I'm going to tell you that it was the hardest thing. And actually, the next day was the best thing. I thought, I don't have to go to that job anymore. I
Right.
felt so good. I called a place that I had worked for in the summer that I worked for in the summer because it was summertime. Can I work here until I get another job, until October comes when they close? And yeah, I got a job. I mean, it wasn't obviously going to pay as well as I was getting, but and then I went on. It was funny because I had just gotten fired just before I went to go visit my friend over in Nebraska, and I went on that trip a
And
fired person.
you weren't stressed, right? Like divine
No,
intervention. Have you ever noticed that where maybe you're stressed about something like that and like you said it worked out right before your trip and so you got to have your trip and you knew you had a job when you came back with where else you were going to work. And
yeah,
so there again, we get in these situations where it's like we don't want to kind of really step out of our comfort zone or we're afraid, well, what happens if, right? We always have these what ifs. If I quit, maybe I won't make as much money. And so it leaves, you stay, right? You stay and you're miserable and you don't have any peace. And that's when the divine goes, okay, well, if you're not going to move, I'm going to move you, right? And that's what it
exactly.
sounds like they did. And it all worked out for the best, right?
Yeah, I mean, I did struggle for a while, and I didn't get a job until October. Luckily, just before my other job was going to be ending, I did get a job at where I'm at now, working at a school, and I love it, and it's where I felt that I should have been anyway, and so is in the schools because I enjoyed doing it before when I was doing it. So, I mean, yes, it worked out. It didn't feel like it at the time, but at the same time, I have never been so happy to not go to a job was when I got fired from there. And so yeah, and then I don't do you have any examples? I have others, but I know there's a couple others that I wanted to mention, but I was seeing if you had anything
Well,
else.
last year I was working two jobs. Remember that? I had the morning job. So I had a morning job and then I had an afternoon job. I would go from my morning job right to my afternoon job. And it was crazy because I had all these projects that the divine, or, that my guides were going, Renee, you need to be working on these things, right? And I was like, tell me when, because I was exhausted, right? Like I would go to my morning job, I would go to my afternoon job, and they're like, well, we're just going to eliminate one for you. And I was kind of freaking out so my morning job, basically my position got eliminated. And another lady decided it wasn't going to work in her schedule because they switched it up. And they said, well, you can take her position. And I said, no, I can't, because I can't make it work with my afternoon job. And it just worked better with my afternoon job. And so, and at first I was, kind of upset, and I'm like, what am I going to do? I need this extra, right? And the divine's like, no, you need to be focused on these other things instead. So they basically, my job was eliminated so I could focus on what I needed to focus on to move me forward in my future. Right.
Yeah.
So, obviously at the time, sometimes it can be a little scary, right? I'm like you, it was probably a little scary, not sure how you were going to, like you said, you probably took a pay cut to go to that other part-time or whatever till, you found something in the fall, but it always works out. And that's one thing I've learned, to just go with it, right? Stop doing that tug of war with the divine. When the divine says, just trust, it's all going to work out, And
I wasn't really able to do that. Even when those things were happening, that was a struggle for me. It was literally, because it was before, you had come back and everything had happened. And I still was in that mindset that this is the worst thing ever. Struggle. And I've been struggling my whole life. And I'm still, but, and so, I wasn't very good at knowing that this is what's supposed to happen, because I was not in the same mindset that I actually am in from the last 2.5, 3 years. And even then, even when just, about the time you came back, and just before you came back, or actually, it was just after you came back, I had been living in my dad's house because my marriage didn't last. And I didn't like that, but I thought, well, at least I have a home, And then my dad had a new wife that had wanted me out. So I had to move in with my daughter. And that was a tough decision because I never wanted to do that. I love my daughter, but I just didn't want to do that because we had done it before, and it was just, I just preferred not to have to do that. And I did. And it was tough, but at the same time, it came to a head with a lot of things that happened. And then my daughter had just went ahead and let me know of things that I hadn't known about for years, that she told me. Now everything's out in the open. I thought we had a good relationship before this. And then when she told me all this stuff, it seemed like my relationship went downhill. But I feel like it has actually made it stronger now. I mean, now she's got a new baby. So cute. My first grandson, my first grandchild. Anyway, it's actually, I think, in a way better, even though sometimes it doesn't feel like it, but I think because there's been boundaries that have been put on both of our sides. So would you say by your dad saying, hey, you got to leave, because his new wife was like, hey, so by you having to leave there, actually in the long run, it's probably made your relationship a little bit stronger with your daughter, because like you said, then everything by having to move in with her, it brought things out into the open. So yeah. I think that was the divine going, through their ways, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now the biggest one I remember though is this last, like a year ago from Valentine's Day, not this last Valentine's Day, but the year before that, I had an amazing car. I miss it so much, but it got totaled. And I talked to Renee all the time about how I need to get a new car, and I couldn't do this because that hadn't been paid off yet, and I couldn't do that because the gap insurance hadn't been paid off, and I was so frustrated.
Remember what I kept telling you, have faith, right? Remember?
And I still struggled with that. Even then I struggled with that. But I was like, I'm just so frustrated, and I had to borrow my dad's car, which was a Miata, and it wasn't safe for the icy roads sometimes. And so I was a little, frustrated. I was worried. Then, okay, my daughter came with and found out, and my name was on her car loan because she needed a co-signer at the time years ago, and so her car got repossessed. Well, she worked her butt off doing whatever Spark, I think it was Spark and stuff like that, made some money, was able to get her car back, had to pay all that money to get it back. Finally, it was in the clear. And then I went to the Liberty. I went to my bank first. I said, I need a car. And I know my daughter kind of ruined my credit. I know it wasn't, it was her fault, but you know what I mean? And I was like, look, I need a car. I just said, I need a car. It's not me that didn't pay it. It was her. And I just want you guys to, so my bank's like, well, go to a dealership. And so I went to Liberty and I saw a car that it was like my mom's car, only 2 years difference and I said to Renee, I said, I'm looking at this car. It looks like my mom's. And Renee says to me, guys, she said, your mom says that you need to get this car and that everything's going to be okay.
Yep.
And I got rejected from every place, except they also checked my bank. I had like 20, I don't know how many, more than 20 some rejections for car loans.
So you would say that was divine intervention, right? The divine was rejecting you, right? Yeah.
Right, because they told me on the loan that if it isn't up to date, then we won't be able to give you the loan. And they checked, and my daughter had just, got it out of possession. So I was like,
divine timing.
Thank God, yes. And I couldn't have gotten it before then because she still was working on that repossession. And so, yes, it was divine timing in the fact that I wouldn't have been able to get the car anytime before that time. And right. It was the right time. It was good because my mom's car looked similar. And I was like, this is the car I want to get. Just felt, it's like something inside said, I need to look at this car. And it was a good price, and so, and when I told Renee and she said that my mom had channeled and said that, it was going to be okay, then I just.
How frustrated. I remember how frustrated you were. Remember that? Because you kept getting declined and you're like, but I need a car because her car was totaled and she needed a car because she was driving this little car of her dad's, which was not comfortable.
And not safe.
It wasn't comfortable. It wasn't safe because it's winter time. Wasn't it winter time or something?
I mean, there was one morning I drove that Miata to Hermosa, and I literally had to drive 20 miles an hour on a 70-mile an hour road because it was so icy, and that was a rear-wheel drive car. And so it was so stressful. But and after that, for some reason, after that moment, and her telling me, and her telling my mom, it was like a light switch. I still struggle, but at least I am able to now see, that, there's things that happen in certain timing, and that's the only way.
Yep, certain timing, and there again, that we always think that, like you said, rejection. I always like to say the divine's, intervention for us is our protection a lot of times, right? Because like you said, it was divine timing that you were able to get that car of how it worked out with your daughter and all of those times that you were rejected. And I know that it was frustrating. It was a frustrating process for you. And you were really worried about how am I going to get a car? But if we look back, those weren't the cars you were meant to have. Right.
And my biggest concern was I'm going to lose my job. I don't have a way to get there.
Right.
That was my biggest concern.
But it all worked out. And so if you're just hopping on tonight is Real Talk with Renee and Jen. And we're just talking about how sometimes the divine intervenes in our life to, sometimes it's to protect us and sometimes it's to move us forward. Sometimes we're stuck in a relationship or a job or a situation where we're either too scared to step out of our comfort zone. We're just not quite there where we have that faith and letting go of control. And so that's what we're talking about tonight. So if you're new here, tell us who you are, where you're from. We're glad that you're here. Like I said, we're just talking about how the divine was intervening in our lives at the right time, most of the time, right? Because it's divine timing. Mm-hmm. So did you have anything else you wanted to share, Jen?
I mean, no, I just feel like it's a matter of trusting it. And I think, we all struggle with trust anyway. And then trusting that things are going to work out is the most important thing. Knowing, and what I had written down, remember, was that, instead of going, oh gosh, this is horrible, and catastrophizing is what they call in the counseling field. They call it catastrophizing. We have to look at what we're supposed to learn from the situation,
Yep. Yep.
because, and I'm not good at that till either, but I'm getting better.
Well, and I think that's a perfect segue into my situation, wouldn't you say? So in my case, I lost my husband. If you're new here, my husband checked out on us in September of 2023, and I lost my entire world of 32 years. And at the moment, when you're in something, you don't understand. You think, why is this happening to me? And through my almost 2.5 years, it's crazy that it's been that long, but 2.5 year journey now, like we just talked about, you don't realize that it's not happening to you, it's happening for you, right?
Exactly.
And in my case, I truly believe now that, by my husband leaving, he had to leave in order for me to fulfill my purpose. He was only put in my life for a certain time to give me that confidence that I needed in order to fulfill that purpose. And I was becoming codependent on my husband. And so I needed a course correction, right? The divine needed to intervene. It was time. And in order for me to be on the right path of where I'm supposed to be going, which is now here helping other people through loss and trauma and uplifting others and trying to help other people heal, and had I not went through everything that I went through, I wouldn't be able to do that, right? I wouldn't have those experiences. And so,
Yeah.
if we learn nothing, it's one, sometimes when we think something, we lose our job or a relationship, sometimes the divine's working to move those things out of the way for something better. And so just remembering that, and I know that's so hard, right? Like I'm I'm sitting in my brother's basement going, okay, I'm waiting for that next step, right? And having that faith in my journey, knowing that my guides will give me that next step. But it's really hard sometimes when you're in that situation to take a step back and be able to go, like you said, what am I learning from this? Or, why is this happening for me, right, instead of to me? Because that we're so programmed in this world to believe everything is happening to us and not for us.
And and it's funny, I just thought when you were talking about that was, you didn't really have a choice. Your course correction got taken for you by your husband. I stayed in my marriage, my second marriage, even though I was complaining on a regular basis to my friend Julie about it, and I was like, no, but I'm gonna. And then the course correction happened where he chose whatever he did, and I felt like a failure. I did. I felt like a failure. And then I look back at what I learned from it, and I learned what I will not put up with, and I learned boundaries.
There you go.
Because I had boundaries with him, but I let him cross them, like we've had in the other real talk we talked about.
Yeah.
But I learned that, and I didn't think I was going to learn anything when it first happened. It felt like my life was over. I had worked hard, and then, yeah, my life was over. But yeah, so I mean, I learned a lot of things from it, and that's what we need to do is figure out what it is but it's hard, I know, in the moment to think about,
in that moment, it is hard to just kind of take a step back and take a breath and just, kind of learn to have faith and trust. So I was just going to mention, so if you're not progressing, you're not learning, you're not evolving as a person, and, you have a certain purpose here, the divine will step in a lot of times and say, okay, if you're not going to progress, I'm going to progress for you. And like my case, it was kind of a huge progression, right? Like you said, I had no choice. And most of the time we don't have a choice. That choice was kind of made for me. And at the time I was kind of kicking and screaming, right? All the way, going, no, this isn't, but that was before I realized what my purpose was and why I had to go through what I went through. and learned the things that I've learned in this 2.5 year journey to go, okay, right? And like I said, sometimes, like Jen, if you get fired, sometimes it's for your best too, because you're not meant to be there, right? You're not maybe in that right spot. You're looking for your purpose, Lulu? Well, you're definitely in the right place. And if you need any help, let us know. Send me a DM if you're really struggling, and we can help you get there. If you're looking for your purpose, one of the biggest things we can tell you is figure out who you are and what do you love, because that's when you agree, Jen, is it's once you figure out who you are and what you love, that's usually your purpose.
Yeah, sorry. I was focused on something you had said and I lost it. I was going to say,
Oh, I'm
make a
sorry.
comment on it. No, you're fine. No, I just couldn't remember what it was and it was something that was pretty cool, but I don't remember what it was now.
That's okay.
Yes, I think that's, you said something about, oh gosh, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, as far as finding your purpose, I mean, you do have to know what it is that you enjoy doing, but also that is going to give value to. And that's the biggest thing that I've learned is when you're doing something out of giving value to others rather than anything else, or even to yourself, but giving value to someone, including yourself, is what you're meant to do and what's going to put you in the right direction to your purpose.
Right.
And yeah.
What I tell everybody is, what is it that you could do that if tomorrow morning that you just hop out of bed to do it, you want to get out of bed every day to do it, that, make something that you love so much that you don't need a vacation from, right? Something that is going to, I'm like, you're dying to get out of bed every morning to do it because you're that passionate about it. Find that passion and you'll find your purpose. That's what I say.
Yeah, and when you're getting that course correction, it's because you're not following the path that you need towards your purpose.
Right.
So,
and most of the time, those are the things that we're dreading getting out of bed for, wouldn't you say?
And that's what I was going to say was getting out of your comfort zone. Okay, that's what getting out of your comfort zone is what I don't like to do. Nobody likes to do, but that is actually what is keep. That's what I was thinking about when you said something, was that it sometimes is a reason when you don't get out of your comfort zone why you get a course correction. Yes. And why you get that divine intervention.
Right. Because when you're stuck in your comfort zone, you're not evolving, you're not learning, you're not moving forward in whatever process you're supposed to be doing.
Purpose. Yeah.
Your purpose, right? And so there again, I always say if you're not a little bit afraid, you're not stepping out of your comfort zone. And
that means I'm not stepping out of my comfort zone right now, because I try
in order to evolve and to keep moving, generally you have to step out of that comfort zone. So, but like I said, figure out what it is that, that passion that is so strong that you will just leap out of bed for every day, and that's generally your purpose. Something that, like I said, you cannot wait to get up every day to do. And for me, I mean, I'm not doing this full time, but I know one day I will be. But right now, I love to get out of bed every day because I enjoy giving messages to people. I enjoy helping other people with their loss and healing. And I can't wait until I can do this on a full-time scale, right? And I know that that's what I'm meant to be doing. So, and like I said, I cannot wait to get out of bed to do this because it's something that I'm passionate about. So figure out what you're passionate about, figure out who you are, learn to love yourself. If you don't know how to do that, let us know. We'll help you with that. But love yourself. And like I said, find your passion and you'll find your purpose.
Yeah. And, I know my purpose has something to do with Renee's purpose. I've got my own stuff too that I'm doing, but I agree with her. I think that, I need to make more time for the things that I'm passionate about. I am passionate about my job because I do love working with kids, but I know that's not what I'm going to do, long term. It's just, obviously to pay my bills and to but also at the same time, it's not working there is not just about paying my bills. It's because I absolutely love working with those kids.
Right.
But yeah, I know. I mean, and sometimes your purpose isn't going to make you money right away.
Like
But
right now, I don't make anything to help people. I just help people because I love to help people. Right. I've been on here, 4 nights a week for 2 years, basically, and I don't make anything off of that other than what little bit of readings that I get on from my mini read Wednesdays. But you know what? I know eventually one day, what I put out will come back to me, and it will. I know it will. It will come back to me. And until then, I just keep doing what the divine tells me to do, which is to help people. And I make it work.
yeah, so. But yeah, and it's all in our own divine timing.
Our own divine timing. Exactly. Well, if you hopped on with us tonight, we really appreciate it. I hope you hop on with us again next Sunday. Sunday nights will be Real Talk with Renee and Jen. Not sure what we're going to talk about yet. We'll figure that out by the time we get there. Let's see. So today is Monday, so I will be back here tomorrow night, Tuesday night, with a whole new topic. We thank you very much for hopping on with us and for all the love that you've given us. I am here Sunday through Wednesday, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time now. If you're not familiar, I am a psychic medium and I do readings. So if you are interested in a reading, you can go to my bio down below and send me an email. That's how you would set that up. I also have a YouTube channel. If you're not familiar with my YouTube channel, that's under Scorpio Medium also. And all of the lives that you see here are uploaded over there. So if you do enjoy our lives, and you missed one and you want to catch it, head on over to Scorpio Medium. I would love it if you subscribed if you're not a subscriber. And Jen, you got anything else to add tonight before we leave?
No, I do not. Sorry, there was a distraction over there. I do not. I think that we pretty much covered it. Yeah, so I think we should be
okay. Well, what I'm going to say on that note is if you miss it tonight, we were talking about sometimes the divine intervenes in our life. And sometimes, we need that little nudge, that little push. And so if something happens in your life, don't be so quick to judge that it's not the divine just giving you a little shove in the right direction on your path. On that note, I hope you all have a great night. Remember to make tomorrow great because it is a choice. Thanks, Jen, for hopping on, and we'll see you all tomorrow night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.